GRA was established by an act of parliament. Our main mandate is to mobilize revenue for the government. Africa in general, we have a very similar issues or problems when it comes to taxation. Whether it's Gambia or it's another country, we always have lack of compliance in taxation. We always have low collection taxes as compared to the West, where people voluntarily goes and pay their taxes.
The law, in terms of expectation, is built around voluntary compliance. That anybody who is supposed to be registered, who is supposed to pay tax, they will voluntarily come forward and do it. But from experience, that is not the case. A lot of the compliance is forced compliance. In other words, we have to work hard to detect where taxpayers exist and make sure that everybody who is supposed to be on the register is on the register.
Over the years, we realized that our potential of revenue collection in the rental income was not to its maximum level. And that is what really dictates us to look at beyond our area to see whether we can bring in technology to the rental income. And this is what exactly makes us to search for a solution until we come across a company called RippleNami, who are also performing in other countries like Uganda.
From the start of the rental income office, without this project, it's like everything was manually carried on. Everything was manually done. Even the data that we collect were done manually. We send our men into the street to physically check properties and bring out the information. That was what we were doing. And with the coming of the system, we have seen some of those manpower works can be minimized. So it's just a matter of sitting at the comfort of your office and you can see properties in view by using your computer through the system. The amount of labor manpower that we used to put in is now been minimized.
Our enforcement, the efforts that we used to put on physically going after people to tell them to come and pay and try even to see some of the landlords, because of a big problem when we were collecting without this technology. But as we speak now, it's a matter of using a telephone call. And once we got the landlord, the explanation is very short and brief, because the system will indicate the locations of the properties. And then the landlords will have no other questions but comply.
With the availability of this system and also the capabilities it has in terms of mapping different areas of the country, in terms of properties where they exist, and also doing data matching using the system in terms of collecting data from many sources where we will be able to identify property owners. I think that is a big help as far as this particular issue is concerned, because with the system now, properties are mapped. There is greater visibility about the existence of properties, and also with the data that is gathered, now it's able to link these properties to owners. And then from a GRA point of view, now since we are able to see property, we are able to identify owners, we are able to identify the purpose of usage of the property in terms of whether it is owner occupied or it is rented. That makes life very easy for GRA. So we can just go straight to identify who the taxpayers are and collect the revenue.
The Banjul and KMC area was fully uploaded in October. So from that time to date, we have seen a drastic changes in terms of the way and the manner we used to handle the rental income tax. The technology has helped us greatly in the sense that now My staffs can sit at one place in their office and have a complete view, 360 view of the whole Banjul area as well as the whole KMC. My staffs can now query the system and bring a list of a taxpayer who may have registered in the past only 1 or 2 properties, but he or she may have 10 or more properties. Now the technology has given us the opportunity to have physical appearance and the locations of those properties, and it makes the work easier for us. We can easily call a taxpayer, and then when the taxpayer appears, we can show the taxpayer physically the properties that he or he has, and we can ask questions. Have you been paying rental tax on this property, on that property, on the other property? Now there's no denial in this, so it's a question of confession. We have seen example, a taxpayer who has been paying only $3 million on properties that he has, and now the same taxpayer, due to the technology that we applied, end up paying $11 million as rental income tax. This is unbelievable. How many years has gone when that taxpayer was not paying the right tax? But because of the technology that we deployed, it has made us to broaden the tax base and bring in those that are not part of that system. And that consequently increases the revenue collection on the rental income. That's it.
The system gives you the opportunity to be able to see all the properties that the person owns. And during your interaction with the taxpayer, you are able to show him pictures, videos of those compounds, those houses, and even with the videos, you are able to know the occupancy level, whether some of those buildings are being used or not. I think the video can play a part in that too. So seeing the pictures of the building and also knowing the locations of the properties is definitely going to do a long way to curb corruption and promote transparency in the way we do things here.
In 2024, the revenue collection stands on the rental income stand at about 92 million. While we have the partial and full load of KMC and Banjul, by end 2025, we registered about 139 million only on rental income. This is a significant jump in the Gambia Revenue Authority, and that's within 1 year, that's like a 50% increase.
The system definitely has a huge contribution as far as our revenues are concerned. If you compare January and February 2026 revenues collected compared to January and February of 2025, our revenues grew by almost 99%. So that kind of growth cannot be explained by efforts or enforcement activities. There must be some additional layers of support, and that is provided by this rental tax compliance system. So a system like this is addressing all these challenges, because more revenues, it means government has more public funds available for public investments. So which means that in terms of government impact, on the lives of the citizens, society, the population at large, government is better able to do that. And in terms of the distribution of income, you see that now, with the tax base being expanded through this rental tax compliance system, we are able to mobilize more revenues, particularly from the well-to-do in the society, and use that revenue mobilized to deal with a lot of social programs that will impact population.
And as African countries, we need this money. We need the revenue, because our countries cannot develop without us concentrating on domestic revenue mobilization.
We hope to see very interesting developments ahead with the Google Street View. I think the system can also be utilized by other agencies like the municipal councils. I think it can equally be utilized by Gambian businesses in accessing international markets. with the use of that technology. I think that make the Google Street View a very interesting part of the project, which I don't think have never happened here before. So I think the Gambian people will be amazed to see something like that, where they can capitalize on to gain something out of it.
So if we want to go ahead, if we want to develop our countries, we need to have systems like rental income compliance system, because it's only the technology that can move us. As we speak now, we have broadened the tax base in the side of the rental income. We have seen that people who are not paying, who are not compliant in terms of their tax payment, we are bringing them in. We've increased the revenue collection, not necessarily increasing the rates, but rather broadening it. And we are moving steadily to a higher revenue level in terms of collection. And certainly we are very much optimistic that the sky will be the limit as far as our revenue collection is concerned. With this system, the work is becoming easier for us. So my advice, if I have the opportunity to talk to my fellow Commissioner Generals, as well as the Ministers for Finance, who are both concentrating more on domestic revenue mobilization, I would advise that we deploy this system, because without this system on, there are a lot of leakages in our collection. And to block those leakages in the revenue, the best way is to bring the technology, which we did.
Our revenues have been increasing month by month, year by year. That gone are the days when we have to do revenue collection, in the manner in which we have traditionally done it. Open files and do everything on the basis of manual work. With a system like this, if their objective is really to grow their tax register, increase their revenues, increase the level of compliance, enhance their revenue to GDP ratios, I think this is a solution that is a quick fix for any country that has this kind of problem. So I would recommend it to any revenue administration that believes in or have the objective of maximizing their revenue collection for national development. This system can contribute towards that objective.